So I'm going to present a small project done at Lancaster University in the Master in Design Management. And in particular it was within module design thinking and research methods. And mainly we've been asked by Lancaster City Council to... so it's not working. So I need to get a bit closer? Okay. Right, so it's mainly about, because one of the big issues for City Council is about engaging citizens in order to be able to develop a more co-produced way of delivering services. So they want to understand more what motivates people to participate to volunteering. That was a kind of question, and so how they could motivate that. So mainly what the research was not just really about developing services, but supporting the local council to get some insights into how they could support better this way of communities to help each other, or proper form of volunteering. And they wanted to see in different contexts, in rural, urban area. We worked with students, and the students were mainly divided in different groups, and they had to kind of go in different communities. So they had to choose communities that were already kind of doing some initiatives, in order to then understand what motivates people to kind of connect with each other and so on. And the results of this exploration was possible suggestions for the City Council, like having a less hierarchical communication strategy, or they suggest a digital credit system for time bank, or guidelines for enforcing community spirit, or cross-generational activity, and so on. The City Council, as I was saying, was motivated to explore citizen engagement and participation, because they wanted to find a way to reinforce that participation given the limited resources they had. So how can then include citizens not only in the decision making, but also in delivery. And they help to get in contact with local communities, accessing data, and give feedback to projects. And so what came out from this project mainly was insights into participation and engagement, and what support and prevent them. Other people that were involved were all these kind of existing communities. Some projects were directed by the City Council, so they wanted to have feedback on that, and some were more community driven. And there was not really one way of doing the project. Students had been introduced to different methods, and they had to choose the best methods that would fit with a very specific project and community. So they were introduced to, kind of user research and ethnographic methods, or more designerly approaches like cultural props, generative tools, co-design tools. So they were free to use this. And the role of design in this project was about having the possibility to develop an in-depth exploration of people motivation and resistances to participation in community, and also try to understand what were the existing projects, what existing communities, and their reciprocal relationships. And they develop also ideas. So they provided this list of ideas to the City Council, and the Council collect all these ideas into a report that they share with their communication engagement team. And they got some insights on how to improve their future activities, like the Street Pride project, on how to improve the communication strategy with the communities, a possible idea to develop a credit system for time bank, or for another project that we're doing, connected communities, how to improve their engagement strategies. The City Council there was some learning outcomes, which was about how to manage expectation, which was a big issue for them, because the more you do projects, the more you create expectation from communities. And also there was some students that were more oriented to understand problem instead of developing a more appreciative inquiry approach, so there was some conflict there. The success of the project was the possibility for City Council to have this kind of diverse inputs into understanding their communities, and the fact that students actually managed to create a good relationship with the community groups, so they were not kind of creating problems with relationships. But the problem, of course, was just 10 weeks problems. The students were mostly from Asia, so they had to kind of adapt to the cultural shocks. And then some ideas were not feasible in terms of implementation, so of course the 10 weeks project. But the City Council was really interested to understand how design works, and so that helped to the students to develop further the process.
I think you just brought up something that's really interesting, which is that in our universities we do have an increasing number of overseas students. So there is an issue for sure here with kind of cultural engagement. And I just wondered, have you found that to be a challenge, and have you come up with any ideas of how is this a problem, and if it is, have you found any tools for overcoming it?
Well, it's a problem, and it remains a problem in particular because we have like 90% of students that are Chinese. And in particular, then if you do a project, then the first term is quite challenging, and so for them it's quite a big challenge. They surely can bring new perspectives, but the depth they can go and the understanding they can develop is not that level, and then they have just 10 weeks. So I think it is a matter of focusing more on the educational perspective than really thinking that they can really develop something always, you know, meaningful and feasible. So in this sense, it's more about creating opportunity for them to develop and apply methods and really explore cultural differences. And then there might be some interesting insights anyway because you support the project. But you know, it's not always possible to achieve maybe what you can achieve with people that are actually, you know, not foreigners and not with such a cultural gap.
Thank you. I was having a couple of conversations with people sort of over coffee, and they've been saying, okay, these projects are great, really like some of these case studies, but actually what is it that designers are doing? Because these people that are sort of responsible for service delivery, they're designing and delivering these services all the time. So what are these methods, tools, and I guess so my question to you is, with the insights that came out of that sort of design research approach that was being applied there, the graphic design research that was being applied there, were the council surprised by the insights that were generated? Were they original insights that the council wasn't previously aware of?
Some of them, yes, because they brought a different perspective, and maybe people were more willing to talk with the students than with the council, because there was maybe some friction in some of the projects, and so they get some insights that were a bit more, maybe more difficult to get in the time frame that City Council has, so the students could be more in depth, and also some of the considerations maybe were coming from an idea of designing solutions which were more a collaborative way of considering a solution than more kind of traditional services. They were bringing ideas that were not necessarily that familiar with the City Council. So I think there were some insights that helped them to reconsider what they were doing from a different perspective, because they could get insights from actually people that participated and maybe they were not really willing to talk with the council. And then on the other side, they bring in a fresh perspective on how things can be done in a different way. So I think it's a mix of in-depth understanding of the situation that requires some time and some particularly way of approaching the context. And on the other side, a more creative approach that helps to kind of explore possibilities in a more free way, because you're not in the system as maybe City Council.
You don't have to find the solution, you just have to identify some insights around it. I think it's a good example of what SEO was talking about this morning in terms of this sort of sense-making exercise as well as the solution-oriented exercise. And you might go some steps that, you know, you'll make that design research and making that project, that initiative is making a contribution, although and its responsibility isn't necessarily to find the solutions, it can still make a contribution to the research and the insights gained.